the Futurist Mindset with Fifth Avenue Capital. Hello, everyone. We are talking today about managing uncertainty and evolving into a thriving situation. I have an amazing gentleman, Reagan Rodriguez, with me. Reagan is a futurist that teaches stratosphere wealthy legacy families how to become impact investors. Hello, Reagan.
Hello, Tessa. How are you doing on this afternoon?
I'm very, very good. Thank you. How about yourself?
Yeah, I am as well. I'm doing better than I deserve.
Awesome. Well, today, this is really interesting topic. So managing uncertainty and evolving into thriving. And I
Yeah.
think you model this perfectly for us because you have a lot
Why?
of uncertainty. Yes, I think you do. And I see you as a very thriving person. So
Thank you.
I'm hoping you'll give us the secret to this.
Oh, wow.
No pressure. No
I want to know
pressure.
what the secret is as well.
No, it's so you're very good at this. But
Yeah.
I know you have some words of wisdom for us too today.
You want me to get started? Was there something else you want
Yes,
to
nope,
mention?
nope,
Or?
that'd be great. Go
Awesome.
ahead.
Okay. Well, why don't we do this? What I want you guys to think about, what everybody wants when we're creating a fund or what you want on life. Think about this. Life is a beautiful challenge of managing pain and uncertainty and looking at the environment and then molding and evolving into what is going to thrive in the environment if you choose to want to thrive, if with all the challenges of life that brings us, all that uncertainty, that's called life. That's what life is. So what helps me deal with that uncertainty and thrive in that ambiguity and really deal with the change and all the social impact that we're dealing with people like me being part of that fabric of the human race. On the small level, my sales team with my fund. What helps me thrive when I'm appropriately challenged? I'm going to tell you, stop allowing people to not be part of the game that they're in, right? They don't have an illusion of choice. Well, you can work or you don't have to. No, you can. Don't lead that way with your fund. Proactively challenge people to step up their game, challenge people to grow and execute at the highest level. Do it in a loving place, not a judgmental. Let's not wait until evaluation is done. Challenge them proactively. They can do more. They can give more. They can be more. This is not survival land. This is thrive land. Sometimes we act like we're saving our people. That's not my job. My job is not to save you. I'm not a hero. I'm here to develop your leadership and what's inside of you that you can pull out and grow to that next level. That's what creating a fund is all about. And everybody wants to be challenged. The greatest leaders in the world can challenge their people and have them step up, go to that next level. We all know that everybody has that. The best leaders know that we are all playing small. The beautiful thing about leading a fund is that you're playing with house money. Most people use 2 to 3% of their potential in problem solving or creativity or memory. They're using so little of themselves. Why don't we challenge them to do more? Why aren't we helping them to expand and go to that next level? Because nobody taught us to, but now you know it. So think about who you want to challenge first. You. This is a challenge. Creating a fund is a challenge because you have to, again, you need to recognize that everything is within you. You need to then find it, activate it, and then use it as value to help other people do the same, to be leaders. And how do you measure that? In their goals, in their performance, in their execution, in the profit, and in the value that they bring. That's what we practice in our fund. I practice that in my relationships. I practice in being more motivated. I'm not impacted by the outside because God lives inside of me, not outside. All I see on outside is a projection of what's happening inside. So change it. You get a chance to change it. Be intentional. recognize that the more awareness that you create, the more powerful you become. That is the opportunity you have. So make it happen at the highest level. Also, understand framing. So before I challenge you, Mateo or Jimmy, to go to that next level, I frame how you're going to feel. That is called a pre-frame. If I say, hey, before I'm going to ask you to do what I'm going to ask you to do or become what I'm going to ask you to become, this is what you're going to experience. You're going to feel this way. You're going to feel rejected. You're going to feel insecure. You're going to feel doubtful. But because you know that I see the power in you, you're going to remember that. If I'm put in this position, then I know that I can help accomplish that and want you to accomplish that. You're going to pull on your faith, and you're going to enjoy being uncomfortable. You're going to enjoy being doubtful and insecure, because it just means that you're changing and that you're growing. You're going to remember what you went through before and that you overcame when you were feeling that way. And this is going to be another thing that you're going to accomplish. And all that fear is going to go away. We talked about that, Jimmy, earlier today. While you do that progress, there's pain and there's opportunity. There's doubts, there's successes. If you have to reframe effectively. Let me explain what a reframe is. If you were to say, I'm going to triple my goals, we got to earn more, we've got to grow our fund, and let's assume someone there says, I'm going to say, no, believe in me, I believe in you. That's a reframe. I let them put their objections out, and now I'm reframing it. But a lot of the times, because I didn't pre-frame, the reframe is strong. The challenge with the reframe is, if you state it publicly and there's a lot of people in the room, then that guy has to stand their ground a little bit. So even if you convince them, this is what I do, even if you convince them that you're right in that situation, sometimes they have to be consistent to what they publicly said, and they have to do that a little long, and it may strain the relationship. So in a reframe, be very careful to recognize this, that if rapport is maintained, whoever has more certainty is going to influence the situation. If rapport is maintained and it's established and maintained, whoever has the most certainty in that interaction is going to win. A D-frame is when nothing is working. I'm saying, hey, we're going to go after these new goals with this fund. I know that you can do it. And somebody says, nah, I don't think there's any way we could do it. I had someone once say to me, hey, Reagan, can I just tell you how I really feel? Is this a safe place? I knew that a D-frame was going to be involved when someone says that. What I'm doing with a D-frame is I'm protecting the rest of the room. I only do it on a last resort. So a D-frame in that situation, I'd say, when we put these goals out, I thought about you. And I thought about everybody in this room. You have amazing capability. But I thought that you would respond that way. I thought that you would maybe not be ready. And I wanted to pull you to the side respectfully and kind of tell you this proactively, because I didn't want to be disruptive in the room, but I don't know if you're ready to play at this level. And maybe we can find something else that you can do. That's a D-frame. I protected the rest of the room in the fund. And what I did was I changed it whether, hey, can we get these goals? I made him think, do you even belong in this room? With the same level of expertise as everybody else that's wanting to grow this fund. I'm still saying I believe in them. I still believe in their capability. That is a D-frame. Use it only when necessary. Make sure that you protect the greater good. Don't allow one person to create doubt in a room when others have it made. So remember, D-frame is very important when making things happen and growing your fund. I think that's it. I just kind of
yes, you mentioned two of our guests. So I just wanted to have you officially introduce our guests here that we have as well. So we have Jimmy and Mateo, and I'll let you talk a little bit about them, and then we'll come back and just retouch those three, the reframe, pre-frame, reframe, and D-frame that you mentioned.
Sure. Well, no, Jimmy is somebody I met. Jimmy, how long ago was it? And I think you found me. Was it through the internet or was it these weekly shows? I really, till this day, not sure how we connected. I just remember I got this unexpected phone call. How did you find me, Jimmy?
All right. Reagan, thank you so much for having me.
Oh,
The
absolutely. Yeah,
way I found you was through the internet.
I thought so.
Actually, I was trying to get a I think it was a some sort of loan
That's
for a
right.
gentleman. And well, I looked you up and I sent you an email and you responded back. That was on June 22nd of this year. So
That's
since then
right.
we know each other.
Yeah. And you sent me a really touching email. I think it was late last night. I saw it this morning,
Mm,
just on the fact of how when you first called me, it was interruption in my day. I had something else and I was flat out, kind of rude with the guy. I was like, this isn't gonna work. Goodbye. Right.
yeah,
And then somehow he like sends another email and then a little this, and then
yeah,
turned out that we just had another Zoom meeting. We ended
exactly.
up getting along really well. And then I was telling him about my new fund with Worthy Futures and the
Hmm.
trees that we're going to be building. And Jimmy right away starts researching and Googling and speaking
Hmm.
to other landowners in the area. So he just stepped up. And after a while, I said, Jimmy, I think you'd be a good addition to the team here with this new fund we're developing.
Hmm.
And then Mateo was doing a class in your business class in college, and I think you needed to interview somebody. How was it that we met, Mateo? Go ahead and share with them. I think it was a business class that you had, right?
Yes, that's correct. You're remembering correctly. I
Yeah.
met through the internet essentially because I was looking for an entrepreneur to interview, and I was going through some businesses in my local area and down in Naples, and I stumbled across your website, and
Uh-huh.
that. I liked what I saw on the website. I saw you had a fund, and I saw all the projects that you had in progress, and I thought I have to talk to this guy. You see, I was just very excited to speak with you. Um, and so I remember we had that Zoom call I did in my office, and that's where I met you. And we talked for a while. I didn't expect for that conversation to last as long, but it was quite pleasant, and you were gracious enough to help me with my school project. So it was very nice, and we developed a
Yeah.
little relationship after that.
Yeah, and then you drove all the way to Miami and we had a good time. Gosh, we almost like overdosed on sushi, didn't we? Still remembering that big boat of sushi and we're just like eating like crazy. I still remember, you know what I'm gonna say,
Yeah.
because we were sitting outside and there was this guy, Tessa, that you'll love this. He was well, you wouldn't love it. He just decided to just like hack up this lung basically and just spit like right near where we're at because we're sitting outside. And I think we had just started eating, right?
Yeah.
Oh,
And I hear
no.
that and I look like, I mean, we're trying to eat here. And I looked and I said, Mateo, I think I just lost my appetite. And he said, yeah. And I'm looking at this great meal here and I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to do. Are you still hungry? And he goes, oh, it was gross, but I think I can still eat. And we were doing the best we could to just get it all down. Go ahead,
Oh,
Mateo. What were you going to say?
No, no, I remember that. Yeah, I wasn't sure if you're going to bring that up. That was the gross part but it was funny because I was
Uh,
still going at the sushi.
Hey, look, I really brought that up just to say, because the reality is we talked a lot about mindset, attitude. And I do remember when I said, let's not coddle people. Okay. Because that's not going to help anybody when you think about it. So there were times that even in our conversation, he was wanting answers. This young man drove several hours. What is it, about a 3 hour drive from Fort Myers to Miami?
Yeah,
Something
roughly.
like that. And then 3 hours back, right? And this young man had answers. So I was bold in my answers. And sometimes I think I got a little upset and I'm like, did you listen to what I said? Didn't I say this? And I said, look, I don't mean to get upset. And he's like, no, that's what I want to hear. He wants to hear more like a football coach. Talk to me that way. And so based on that, I talked a lot on mindset and growing a fund, because your big question was, what if I wanted to do this, Reagan? And your big question was, what's the learning curve? How can I do this? So based on what I shared, Mateo, is there anything that you want to either ask me or a comment you want to mention based on what I talked on?
Well, we talked about a lot. We spent several hours together.
Oh, I meant what I talked on today. But if you want to talk on something else, go ahead.
Sure. No, sure.
I don't know if you took any notes or there was anything that you.
Well, I liked the strategies you have when it comes to dealing with people in the fund, the deframe, reframe, and then pre-frame. So I thought that was interesting how you already have kind of a system to handle people on your team. So I thought that was I thought that was interesting. I guess my question is, do you always follow the deframe, reframe, and pre-frame? And also, how often do you use those strategies in your fund?
Good question. If I intuitively have a feeling that this is going to happen or they're going to say that, I don't ignore that. That would be like ignoring a red flag. So I'm going to give two examples. One that I used and then one that I remember about, I think it was, tell you how long ago it was. It was November of 2016. So right after that vote. And I was at a coffee shop and there was this woman that was with this guy. And she was saying, hey, I'm really excited that you're going to be coming to meet my family for Thanksgiving. And while she's saying it, she goes, look, can you do me a favor? When we're at Thanksgiving, just don't mention that you voted for Trump. And I just look over at him. I wanted to see what he said. And he just goes like this. He goes, kind of does that. And she goes, okay, great. So you won't mention. All right. So when they do, they're probably going to ask about this. And she just starts going into all these things and just brush that off. And I thought to myself, look, I don't know this woman. But if she worked for me, I would have said, did you notice his body language? And we all know that women are better at reading people than men. Did you pick up on his nonverbal? Did you notice what he said? And again, she knew the pre-frame because she knew he'd probably mention that. So she should have done it a little bit differently. So the pre-frame would have been, let's assume someone asks you, who did you vote for? What are you going to say? And this guy was like pretty bold about the fact that you're not going to shut him up, right? I mean, the more she kept doing it, he's like rolling his eyes. I don't know what happened. I don't know who they are. It was just eavesdropping the conversation. Let me get to a real situation. This was in 2017, and I was dealing with a really big fund that was international that was going to, I can't get into too much other than to just say this. The one gentleman that had hired to have me help him, he called me and he said, things aren't going well. And they hired these two rock star attorneys that bill at like $900 an hour. And they're coming to Florida. And they want to meet with me, but I don't have the guts to meet with them. And they're saying all kinds of stuff in the email that's scaring me. Will you do this meeting for me? All I did was I saw one email that was very confrontational and had some pretty tough words, right? The F word was used a few times. And I said, okay, I knew I had something that I was doing in Palm Beach. It was a Friday. And we got together, and I knew exactly where this coffee shop is at Panera. So that night, when I saw the email and they were confirming, hey, is everything good? Meaning they had to fly from New York to Florida. They had to, Uber was not that big back then. So they rented a car at this coffee shop in Palm Beach. So do you understand what's going on? These guys bill at $900 an hour. The managing partner of their firm is, you better not mess this up, right? Because the other people that are suing are paying for this. Are you guys with me so far? I'm going to now get to the part of the story. I knew it was going to get confrontational. And I also knew I was at an upscale place. I was in Palm Beach. And I knew this was a hoity-toity coffee shop. And the last time I walked into that coffee shop, Rod Stewart was there. So I thought to myself, I don't want in any way for somebody that could potentially be an investor. How cool would it be to have Rod Stewart as an investor? I'd love to have. I don't want anything like that to happen that could affect, I don't want to say my reputation. I'm saying I just didn't want anything like that to take place. So I walk into the coffee shop. The first thing I do not greet them. They're already there. I go and I order my coffee. And there's a line. Very calm. I'm focusing on my breath. And Mateo, I'm thinking of the pre-frame. As soon as I'm there, I'm standing. So we're sitting down and I have my cup of coffee. So here was the pre-frame. I grabbed it and I said, do the both of you see this cup of coffee? They said, yes, I see it. I said, if at any time during this conversation that we're going to have, during this meeting, if at any time I feel that it's becoming confrontational, I'm going to grab this cup of coffee, I'm going to make an about face, and I'm heading back to Miami. Are we clear on that? And they said, oh, yes, sir. Oh, Mr. Rodriguez, we're in no way going to be confrontational. Okay. Then I sat down. Meeting went very well. And at the end, as they're walking me outside, they're like, oh, I don't know why in any way you would have thought it would have been confrontational, Mr. Rodriguez. Oh, in no way would we have. So that's a pre-frame. I'm going to mention it up front. Any time that I have in the back of my mind that I'm thinking this might happen, this could, I'm going to bring it up. Did that kind of answer the question for you, Mateo?
Yes, vividly.
Okay. All right, good. Tessa, is there something you want to add? I see you kind of shaking your head. I didn't know if there was something you want to add as well.
No, I appreciate this, like you said, the visual. I know what to expect in a pre-frame. So I learned something new today. That's all I was going to say. That's very helpful. And I think that I have a question for you really quickly before.
Sure.
Is a pre-frame always something that could go wrong, or can you pre-frame for something that you want to have happen? Like you said, you want to end up getting an introduction to someone who can help fund. Can you pre-frame in a positive frame?
Well, yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. You're right. I generally do it when I'm thinking this could come up and I want to. You're right. It can be a form of boundaries of the way you want it to go. So the same thing, remember how I said if you intuitively think it? What I mean is if you're saying there could be a chance that this might come up, but it might not. And you say, I won't mention it. No, it could come up. So pre-frame it. Mm-hmm.
Okay, beautiful. Well, thank you so much, Reagan. Is there anything else that you wanted to, or any, Jimmy, did you have anything you had questions about?
Yeah,
Yes,
please, Jimmy. I'd love to hear from you.
Absolutely. Reagan, I just wanted to ask you if you could please elaborate a little bit more about the reframe, if it's possible.
Yeah, it's again, okay, here's another example.
Okay.
Let's assume when you're saying it, it's just re-saying what you've already kind of said so that everyone in the room gets it.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Reiterating it, just confirming what you believe to be the case, but also what you want everyone to get consensus on, right?
Yeah.
Understood. Thank you.
Yeah.
Perfect.
And then another thing I'm going to talk on about the certainty. Then I said, whoever it is that has the most certainty is going to win in that negotiation. Okay. Do you guys notice right now with all the new political candidates that are coming out, some of them, when they say something that they shouldn't have, and I'll tell you who I'm talking about, the Indian gentleman, Vivek, you notice something came out that something about racist, right, Mateo? But when they confront him on it, like Al Sharpton, he's standing his ground and he's not giving in. Why is he doing that? Look at his background. Do you know what his background is? He ran funds in biotech. He raised capital on that. And if there's anything he learned, it's that you've got to stand your ground. You're going to keep going and you're going to keep going. And eventually, the one that has the most confidence is going to win. I'm going to give another example. I don't know if you guys saw that debate on Sunday with Trump. He, again, when people say things, no, it's not true, that they cheated, it's not, what does he do? Why does he do that, guys? It's skill. He has learned, or I'll say experience, in what he's done with raising capital for hotels. He was raising capital in the hundreds of millions for these resorts and casinos. And he knows that you've got to stand your ground on it. And the one that does is going to win. Tessa, did you want to add something on that? Have you ever had situations where you didn't stand your ground, you bit your tongue, and as a result, things didn't work out the way you wanted them to?
I think you have to go with your gut about things. In general, you're going to, if you compromise on your beliefs and your standards, it's going to become a problem. It's not going to align and things won't end up in the right place. So yes, of course I've compromised. And then I think, why did I do that again? But I think in my age now, because I'm not a young spring chicken anymore, I know that if I don't stand my ground and if I'm not confident, especially in the business that I'm in a male dominated industry as a web designer, as marketing, it's male dominated. If I don't, I could lose income. I could lose, my opportunity for a contract because I'm not confident enough. So I 100% think you have to be able to be confident and stand your ground at the same time while being fair and nice. I see
Mateo,
you over there, Mateo's like, I want to say something.
Yeah, go for it, buddy.
So I just wanted to make a comment about what you just said about Trump. So I think it's very interesting. I guess I have a question for you when it comes to, obviously you've had a lot of experience dealing with your customers, dealing with people on your team. My question is pertaining to training. So I think when you're talking about reframe, pre-frame, deframe, and that story you mentioned about the fellas from New York, when you're constantly dealing with confrontational people, I feel as if personality-wise, the people that do the best are usually disagreeable, extroverted, conscientious, because that's Donald Trump, right? He's extremely disagreeable person. It takes someone with the backbone to speak to him. And I'm sure Trump has no issue with firing people that aren't working, that aren't helping the business out. So I guess my question is, how do you train someone, let's say, myself or one of your other mentees, Reagan, if their personality is not so much on the disagreeable, extroverted side, because I think you always have to take into account personality when it comes to dealing with people and when it comes to dealing with your team. So how would you train someone who's maybe not disagreeable, not extroverted? It might be difficult for those people to like you said, set those boundaries, to pre-frame and to come in with a mentality of, hey, I'm gonna stand my ground. I know what my standards are. I know what I have experience in this. So if you could speak on that, that would be great.
There's a certain number of steps that I do. I just went over briefly just one of the steps and didn't even go into it. So everything I'm doing is based on steps that I memorize. So that's why there's no reason to have fear. There's no reason to have any nervousness. I am never going to ask anyone to change their personality. Your God-given personality, you were wired that way for a reason. Use it. So it's not about being extroverted. It's about what are the steps that you need to do, and be one of the things you're so good at, Mateo, be disciplined and be highly conscious. You know what I'm going to have you, because I know we talk, sometimes we talk a lot about boxing fights too. You like watching that kind of stuff as well. I want you to YouTube Mike Tyson versus Peter McNeely. Type in Tyson versus McNeely via YouTube. Happened in 95. I remember I was with a group of friends and we watched it together. And the amazing thing is that Tyson, it's all about skill with him. They ask him, so if you've noticed, when people say, when I see you fighting, does it come natural? I remember once he got upset when someone said that. He goes, nothing is natural about what I do. Everything has a skill to it. And when you watch that, you already knew who was going to win when he came out when he came out. The other guy, McNeely, was being what you would say extroverted. He was jumping up and down. He was being undisciplined. Tyson, look at his eyes. Look at a strategy that he did from walking into the ring to the way he's looking at him. And the guy was trying to intimidate Tyson. And the whole time, notice Tyson's eyes. He has a number of steps that he does, and he's conscious about it. I'm going to tell you something that, and then we'll wrap up. I don't want to get too much into this, and I especially don't want to get into the specifics of this. But Jimmy, you know this, living in Nicaragua, and I cross between borders all the time and then go to developing countries. And you know the way it is, when they see that you're a Americano and you're dressed like this, don't be surprised if a police officer stops you and tries to get money out. Would that happen if I was dressed like this and was coming out of the airport in Nicaragua? Am I right that somebody is going to stop me that is an official that has a badge, correct?
Actually, it could be seen like that, and there are cases
I've had it
they
happen to
do
me.
stop you. But in Nicaragua, yeah, there's a possibility, of course. But it's not something that you should be expecting every single time that you come to Nicaragua. But most definitely it does happen though. And it
And
has
if you have something in your your suitcase that, they can just, any little thing, oh, this wasn't supposed to go on here, or this wasn't, they'll find a way to get money out, right? I have a picture. I'm not going to show it now, but I got a picture of these guys had a whole system around it. So they've got a guard dog. It wasn't it was a German Shepherd that they had bought, right? And it was 3-4 different people, and they have a whole system on it, right? And we're talking guns were pulled, AK-47, 357 Magnum.
Yeah.
And I'm very calm. And they're saying, hey, we're either going to send you to go see the judge, or they didn't say you got to pay. They said, we're going to send you to the judge. And I said to them, couple things I said, number one, do you guys see any nervousness in me? And then now they do have guns out. So I was being careful. I wasn't going to pull my hand out real fast. So I said, voy a mover mi mano izquierda, my left hand, so that you see something. And I went like this. So do you notice my hand? Am I shaking? Am I nervous at all? Now you're holding a machine gun like this. You got a gun. I'm not. And he said, te voy a mandar con el juez atrás. He said, I'm going to send you to the judge that's in the back. So I said to him, in America, there's an expression that we say you can't bullshit a bullshitter. They kind of chuckled because they're nervous. I'm not nervous. And I said, do not tell me that there's a judge in the back of the airport, because I don't think that there's a judge. He says, well, we need to send you back in that. You are not putting me in a room, and you don't want to do that. Now they're getting more and more scared. Okay. At the end, when everything worked to my advantage, I came back the second time. When I came back, that same guy was looking for me. He was just waiting, and he said, can I get a selfie with you? I got a picture of this guy. And when I asked him why, he said, Mr. Rodriguez, you need to understand, this is what we do for a living every day. And we're able to export money from people, right? We're basically able to scare the hell out of them. He said, how is it that you, I said, you got to understand, I do this every day. The difference is this game that you play, of stealing money from people and intimidating of that game, the game I play, I've been playing it a little longer than you have.
Wow.
So then, Jimmy, I gave him the same advice I gave you when he said, but why was there no nervousness? What advice did I give you when you feel you're nervous? What do you do?
Control your breathing. Control your breathing and basically just concentrate. And
I wasn't really listening to what they were saying. I was listening to my breath. And you should have seen when I was there, it looked like I was doing yoga. I was breathing very heavy. And I was enjoying it. I was focusing on my breath. So on that note, that's how you get out of somebody extorting cash from you in a developing country.
Sad. It's so sad that they would do that.
It's fun.
Well, I mean, you know how to handle it. That's for sure. So that was lots of great stories today. So thank you, Reagan. Lots of great examples and lessons. And we got to know a little bit more about how you stay cool and controlled in situations. So thank you so much. We're actually here every Friday at noon Eastern time. Sorry, I play with the time zones a lot. Every Friday at noon Eastern time. If you guys have any questions, feel free to put in the chat. Otherwise, make sure that you hit subscribe so that you can get notifications when we go live. And we'll see you all next week. Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Tessa. You did great.